Alien soldiers tremble at humanity's mastery of combat without high-tech arsenal. A spark in the dark. The skies over Earth burned as the alien armada descended, their ships blotting out the stars. The Strickery, a race of biomechanical conquerors, had chosen humanity's homeworld as their next target in a galaxy-wide campaign of dominance. Their forces relied on technological superiority, energy shields that could repel nuclear strikes, plasma weaponry capable of vaporizing entire battalions, and soldiers encased in adaptive armor impervious to Earth's primitive ballistics. They expected a swift victory. They didn't understand what they were up against. Day 1, Montana Wilderness. Major Riley Cooper huddled in a snowy hollow, his breath visible in the freezing air. Around him were remnants of his unit, farmers, hunters, and survivalists who had fled the initial onslaught. Their radios were silent, jamming fields blocking any hope of communication with command. The world had gone dark, but humanity wasn't about to go quietly. The Strickery's arrival had sparked panic in the cities, where civilians were herded or annihilated by advanced patrol units. Yet in the remote corners of the world, humanity's resilience began to shine. Riley, a veteran of Afghanistan and an expert in asymmetric warfare, knew the terrain like the back of his hand. As the alien hover tanks rumbled into the foothills, their smooth, unyielding armor glistening under the winter sun, Riley's mind worked on overdrive. Sand and water, he muttered to his ragtag team as they crouched behind the rocks. "What was that, Major?" asked Nate, a wiry hunter clutching his bolt-action rifle. "Sand and water," Riley repeated, crouching to draw a crude schematic in the snow. "Their hover engines push out a plasma repulsion field to float. It's useless if it can't stabilize on uneven terrain. If we melt ice into water and pack it with the dirt below, we'll freeze it back into a slippery mix. That should trip their balance." The plan was simple. It had to be. Day 3, the first skirmish. 3 hover tanks floated into a narrow valley, their scanners probing the dense trees on either side. Strickery soldiers, tall and spindly with segmented bodies and insect-like agility, marched in formation behind the machines. They swept the area with their integrated weapons, confident in their overwhelming firepower. Then the first tank faltered. Its hover system emitted a strained whine, trying to adjust to the sudden instability beneath it. The mud trap Riley's team had laid a mixture of sand, water, and refrozen ice had done its job. The tank tilted, its repulsion field flickering for a brief second. "Now!" Riley shouted. From the tree line, a volley of Molotov cocktails arced through the air, shattering against the tank's vulnerable underbelly. The crude mixture of gasoline and ethanol ignited into a roaring inferno. The alien machine's smooth armor was ill-equipped for chemical fire. It stumbled and careened into the frozen stream, sparks erupting as its systems overloaded. The Strickery soldiers reacted instantly, pivoting their weapons toward the trees, but humanity had been planning for this moment. With a deafening crack, an avalanche of logs tumbled down the mountainside, each one cut and placed by local loggers who had joined the resistance. The alien troops were fast, but even their advanced exoskeletons couldn't withstand the sheer kinetic force of the falling timber. "Let's move," Riley barked, leading his team deeper into the forest as chaos engulfed the valley. The Strickery had no time to regroup. They were too busy dodging another cascade of logs and fires that sprang from well-placed oil traps. A broadcast in the dark. By the end of the week, the Strickery were still advancing, but they were no longer invincible. Across the globe, reports trickled through the static-filled airwaves of humanity's successes. In Tennessee, locals had used homemade explosives packed into drainpipes to outmaneuver plasma shields. In Canada, flocks of crows trained to detect movement revealed hidden alien stealth units, their cause echoing across the wilderness. And in Florida, well, nobody quite understood how one man with a can of WD-40 had turned an entire squad of alien soldiers into an urban legend. From their command ship in orbit, the Strickery warlords watched the unfolding chaos with growing unease. These humans, with their primitive tools and seemingly disorganized tactics, were unlike anything they'd faced before. "They do not fight as the others," one Strickery general hissed, its voice like metal grinding on metal. Their chaos is strategic. Prepare reinforcements, another commanded, though its tone betrayed uncertainty. We will crush this resistance with overwhelming force. But deep within the forests, mountains, and deserts of Earth, humanity prepared to fight on its terms. And the Strickery would soon learn a lesson they could never unlearn. Sometimes, the simplest tools and the sharpest minds are the deadliest weapons of all. Adapt and overcome. Day 7, the Tennessee Line. Across the rolling hills of eastern Tennessee, the Strickery deployed a shielded forward base. Massive drones erected energy pylons that hummed with an eerie blue light, creating a dome impenetrable by conventional explosives. The aliens believed they'd established an unbreachable foothold. Inside a ramshackle barn a mile away, Callie Lambert, a former chemical engineer turned guerrilla fighter, crouched over a battered workbench. The table was cluttered with pipes, duct tape, and bags of fertilizer, the components of improvised munitions. She and her team had already taken out 2 smaller patrols, but this shielded base presented a new challenge. "This thing could withstand a nuke," said Dave, a burly mechanic wiping grease from his hands. "What's the plan, Callie?" "Simple physics," Callie replied, holding up a crude diagram. "They've got their shield pylons spread evenly, right? That means the field is strongest at the center but weakest near the edges. We can exploit that." The team watched as she explained her idea. Multiple timed explosions, triggered in sequence, would create a wave effect to destabilize the shield at its edge. They didn't need to destroy the base, they just needed to create a breach big enough to exploit. The assault. Under cover of darkness, Callie's team crawled through the tall grass, each member carrying a makeshift explosive device. Strickery patrol drones hovered nearby, their scanners sweeping the area. Callie whispered into her radio, "Hold for the gap, and now." The team sprinted forward during the brief seconds when the drones turned away, planting the charges in a wide arc around the shield's perimeter. When the first charge detonated, the aliens didn't react. Their sensors barely registered the explosion. But then came the second, the third, and the fourth, each one closer to the shield's edge. The overlapping shockwaves hit the energy field like ripples on a pond, causing it to shimmer and distort. A low hum grew louder as the shield struggled to recalibrate. "That's our window," Callie shouted. Her team launched homemade rockets loaded with flammable chemicals through the flickering breach. The projectiles exploded inside the base, igniting fuel cells and equipment. Fire and chaos erupted as Strickery soldiers scrambled to extinguish the flames. Day 10, Pacific Northwest Resistance. In the dense forests of Washington state, loggers and indigenous tribes worked side by side to transform their home into a living battlefield. Every trail, tree, and stream became a weapon against the invaders. Strickery troops moved cautiously through the woods, their sensors alert for signs of ambush. The humans had already used fallen logs to crush one platoon and camouflaged pits to trap another. This time, the aliens thought they were prepared. They deployed a unit of heavy walkers, 4-legged machines armed with laser turrets and flamethrowers, to clear the area. But the humans were always one step ahead. As the first walker approached a dense thicket, it triggered a hidden counterweight mechanism. A massive log, sharpened to a point, swung down from the canopy like a medieval battering ram. The impact pierced the walker's armor, sending it crashing to the ground. From the trees, a volley of arrows tipped with thermite compounds rained down, igniting the exposed machinery. Strickery soldiers returned fire, but the humans melted back into the forest, disappearing as quickly as they had struck. "Let them waste their ammunition," muttered Jonah Bearclaw, an indigenous tracker who had been leading the resistance. "The forest is ours." Day 15, the Florida Enigma. Somewhere in the swamps of Florida, the Strickery faced their most inexplicable defeat yet. A squad of alien soldiers had been sent to secure a water treatment facility. When they arrived, they found the complex empty, or so they thought. As they moved deeper into the plant, a strange, acrid smell filled the air. Unbeknownst to them, a lone human dubbed Florida Man by the resistance had rigged the facility with an arsenal of improvised traps, using nothing more than duct tape, WD-40, and a flamethrower assembled from a leaf blower and gasoline. He turned the plant into a fiery nightmare. The Strickery fell one by one, slipping on oil-slicked floors, tripping over fishing lines tied to cans of volatile chemicals, and getting caught in sudden bursts of fire. When reinforcements arrived, all they found were charred remains and a hastily scrawled note, "Welcome to Earth." Day 20. A shifting tide. From the deserts of Afghanistan to the jungles of South America, humanity's guerrilla tactics continued to defy the Strickery. Their advanced technology became a liability. Their plasma shields could be overloaded with primitive explosives. Their drones could be outsmarted with simple decoys. Their soldiers, though strong, could not match humanity's creativity or adaptability. The Strickery warlords watched in frustration as their once unified invasion force fragmented. They had underestimated humanity's greatest strength, the ability to turn desperation into innovation. In orbit, the Strickery Supreme Commander reviewed the latest reports. One by one, red icons marked failed operations across the planet. "What is their secret?" it demanded, its mechanical voice echoing through the war room. An advisor hesitated before answering. "They do not fight as we do. They weaponize their environment, and their unpredictability is impossible to calculate." The commander's glowing eyes dimmed slightly as it contemplated the unthinkable. Could the humans actually win? The turning point. Day 30. Strickery retaliation. The Strickery, driven to desperation by mounting losses, shifted their strategy. No longer relying solely on their advanced technology, they opted for brute force. Orbital bombardments incinerated entire forests, deserts, and mountain ranges. Cities were reduced to rubble in their attempt to flush out humanity's resistance cells. But the humans adapted yet again. Deep underground bunkers, hidden mountain caves, and submerged facilities provided shelter for the resistance. The decentralized nature of their forces meant that no single blow could cripple their efforts. What the Strickery failed to understand was that humanity thrived in adversity. Each new attack only fueled their resolve. Day 35. The Canadian breakthrough. Far in the icy north, a team of Canadian resistance fighters discovered a crucial flaw in Strickery stealth technology. The aliens used a unique electromagnetic field to bend light around their units, rendering them invisible to the naked eye. However, the field interacted strangely with Earth's wildlife. It was by accident that the breakthrough occurred. A flock of crows, startled by the arrival of an invisible Strickery unit, began circling and cawing loudly. Resistance fighters, led by a retired park ranger named Sarah Hawthorne, noticed the pattern. "Every time those birds go crazy, they're right over the enemy," Sarah remarked. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah's team trained local wildlife to act as early warning systems. By placing bait near likely infiltration points, they ensured that the animals would flock to any hidden units, effectively turning the skies into a radar system. When the next wave of Strickery stealth units tried to slip through the northern border, they were met with precision ambushes, orchestrated entirely by following the movements of crows, seagulls, and even squirrels. Day 40. The Battle of Seattle. The Strickery attempted to secure a major strategic win by occupying Seattle. Their forces descended en masse, deploying shielded walkers and aerial drones to dominate the urban landscape. What they didn't anticipate was how humanity would turn the city itself into a weapon. Working in secret, resistance fighters, tech enthusiasts, and engineers had rigged key buildings with improvised EMP devices. Using scavenged microwave ovens and industrial capacitors, they created a network of traps designed to disable the aliens' electronics. As the Strickery walkers entered the city center, the humans sprang their trap. A series of controlled detonations released powerful electromagnetic pulses, frying the circuits of the walkers and drones. The once mighty war machines collapsed like lifeless marionettes. From the rooftops, resistance snipers and drones equipped with makeshift explosives launched a coordinated assault. Strickery soldiers found themselves overwhelmed by the chaos, their reliance on technology rendered useless. Day 50. The Global Awakening. Word of humanity's victories spread like wildfire. Resistance groups that had been isolated began to coordinate through low-tech methods, runners, carrier pigeons, and even shortwave radio signals hidden in innocuous broadcasts. In the Amazon, tribes used poison darts and natural camouflage to outwit Strickery patrols. In Eastern Europe, ancient castle ruins were repurposed into fortified strongholds. In Japan, resistance fighters used centuries-old martial arts tactics to defeat alien soldiers in close quarters, where their advanced weapons were cumbersome and ineffective. Everywhere the Strickery turned, they faced human ingenuity turning simplicity into strength. Day 60, Florida strikes again. Back in the swamps of Florida, the legend of Florida Man continued to grow. Strickery forces, desperate to eliminate the enigmatic figure, deployed a high-priority task force equipped with enhanced combat drones and thermal scanners. What they found defied all logic. Florida Man had rigged an entire section of the Everglades with traps so absurdly effective they bordered on comedic genius. Fishing nets laced with alligator bait ensnared drones, while swamp gas explosions triggered by motion sensors created chaos. At one point, a Strickery soldier was spotted fleeing a swarm of bees that had been strategically released from a makeshift hive launcher. Scrawled on the trunk of a tree near the aftermath of the skirmish was a new note: "Don't mess with Earth's apex predator." Day 75, the Strickery's dilemma. In their command ship orbiting Earth, the Strickery warlords convened for an emergency meeting. Holograms displayed maps of the planet, now riddled with red markers indicating lost battles. "This is unsustainable," growled the Supreme Commander. "We have expended more resources on this single planet than on the last 10 combined. What makes these creatures so resilient?" An advisor hesitated before responding. "Their adaptability is beyond calculation. They turn their environment into weapons. Their strategy evolves faster than we can counter. Even their humor," the advisor trailed off, displaying a crude human meme that had been intercepted, depicting a Strickery soldier slipping on oil with the caption, "Welcome to Earth's slip and slide." The Supreme Commander's glowing eyes dimmed with frustration. "If we cannot break them, we must negotiate. Prepare a delegation." Shadows of Retreat. Day 100, the Strickery withdraw. The Strickery ships began to rise from Earth's surface, their engines casting eerie light over the war-torn landscape. Across the globe, humanity watched as the biomechanical invaders began a slow, reluctant retreat. Cities that had been under occupation saw alien banners burn. Resistance fighters emerged from forests, mountains, and underground hideouts to witness their hard-fought victory take shape. But there was no celebration yet. The Strickery were a proud and warlike species. A full retreat seemed almost too good to be true. "Stay sharp," Major Riley Cooper warned his team as they watched the last alien walker limp toward a hovering dropship in the Montana wilderness. "We've won a battle, not the war." In orbit, the Strickery command ship lingered. Its enormous shadow stretched over the blue planet like an ominous reminder. Within its walls, the warlords debated. "They fight like predators, not prey," the Supreme Commander snarled, pacing before the holographic display of Earth. "They are not like the others we've conquered. Their resilience is infectious, even among their civilians." The chamber fell silent as the other warlords considered the implications. This campaign had not been a simple war, it had been a costly failure. If word of their defeat spread, other planets in the Strickery Empire might begin to resist as well. "We cannot afford a prolonged occupation," an advisor murmured, its voice filled with reluctance. "But we must leave a deterrent, a reminder of our power." The Supreme Commander's glowing eyes brightened. "Prepare the ultimatum beacon." Day 105, the ultimatum. As the last of the Strickery forces boarded their ships, the skies over Earth once again darkened. A massive device, almost the size of a small moon, descended from the command ship and anchored itself in low orbit. Its surface gleamed with alien script and pulsating energy nodes. In every language known to humanity, a message was broadcast across the planet. "This is the beacon, a reminder of your place in the galaxy. If your kind dares to leave this world or challenge our dominion again, the beacon will activate. Your planet will burn." The ultimatum sent shockwaves through human leadership. Scientists and engineers scrambled to study the beacon. It's alien technology far beyond anything Earth could match. It's a planetary bomb, Callie Lambert concluded after days of analysis. She stood in a bunker beneath Colorado, reviewing intercepted data with a team of specialists. If that thing goes off, it'll make the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs look like a firecracker. So we're prisoners, Riley said, leaning against the bunker's concrete wall. They're leaving, but we're stuck. No space exploration, no expansion, just waiting for them to come back. Callie nodded grimly. Unless we figure out how to shut it down. Day 120, Uniting the Resistance. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity began to unite on a global scale. Leaders, scientists, and resistance fighters from every corner of the world came together to share resources and knowledge. A secret initiative, dubbed Project Liberation, was launched with the goal of dismantling the beacon. It was no small task. The device's energy field rendered it invulnerable to conventional weaponry, and its automated defenses shot down anything that came near. But humanity had learned how to fight an enemy with superior technology. Day 150, the first strike. In the Pacific, a fleet of submarines surfaced under cover of night, their crews preparing to launch modified ballistic missiles. The plan was to test the beacon's defenses, gathering crucial data for a larger assault. The missiles arced high into the atmosphere, their warheads packed with EMP devices, chemical explosives, and reflective chaff. As they approached the beacon, the device responded with terrifying efficiency. Pulses of energy erupted from its surface, disintegrating the projectiles before they could detonate. Just as we expected, Callie muttered, watching the results from a hidden command center. Now we know how fast it reacts. The test wasn't a failure, it was a step closer to understanding the beacon's weaknesses. Day 200, the plan takes shape. In a hidden facility beneath the Sahara Desert, a coalition of engineers and physicists worked tirelessly on humanity's ultimate countermeasure, a massive railgun capable of firing projectiles at near-light speeds. The weapon, codenamed Thunderstrike, was designed to deliver a kinetic impact powerful enough to overwhelm the beacon's defenses. Its projectile, a specially designed slug made of depleted uranium and surrounded by a shell of reflective materials, was built to penetrate the energy field and disrupt the core. Once we fire this thing, we only get one shot, Sarah Hawthorne warned during a strategy meeting. If we miss or don't hit the core, the beacon's automated systems will retaliate. We don't miss, Riley replied, his voice resolute. We can't. Day 300, the final stand. The railgun was positioned in a remote region of Antarctica, chosen for its isolation and stable foundation, powered by a network of repurposed geothermal plants and portable fusion generators. Thunderstrike was humanity's most ambitious creation since the invasion began. The Strickery command ship, still hovering at the edge of the solar system, detected the weapon's activation. They immediately issued a warning. Cease your actions, defiance will be met with extinction. Humanity responded with a single broadcast from Major Riley Cooper. Come and try. As the Strickery prepared to intervene, Thunderstrike fired. The slug tore through the atmosphere, leaving a blazing trail of light as it accelerated toward the beacon. The beacon's defenses activated, firing pulse after pulse of energy, but this time, the projectile's reflective shell scattered the beams, allowing it to break through. The impact was catastrophic. The beacon erupted in a cascade of explosions, its energy field collapsing as its core imploded. The shockwave lit up the sky, visible from every corner of the planet. Epilogue: A New Dawn. The Strickery command ship fled the solar system, its warlords unwilling to face humanity's wrath any longer. On Earth, cheers erupted as the beacon's remains burned up in the atmosphere. Humanity had won not just its freedom, but its place among the stars. As the planet began to rebuild, Major Riley Cooper stood on a snowy ridge in Montana, gazing up at the night sky. They'll come back one day, Callie said, standing beside him. Let them, Riley replied, a small smile tugging at his lips. We'll be ready. And for the first time in months, Earth's future seemed brighter than ever.